Sir Keir Starmer will talk to the General Assembly of the United Nations tomorrow. With us now live on the programme is Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley, President of the Middle East Policy Council, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council and former US Ambassador. Good evening to you, Gina.
Good evening.
I'll maybe ask you to preempt the speech in a moment's time. I think we can possibly guess the themes of it. But do you think it'll actually make any difference to what is happening in the Middle East, specifically Israel's approach and attacks on Lebanon at the moment?
I believe, as we have seen for the last 11 months, that it is unlikely in and of itself to make a difference. So we need to understand a bit better what's happening not publicly. What are the conversations? What is being put on the table, either as an incentive or a disincentive for the Israelis to continue and for Hezbollah to continue? Unfortunately, the Israelis appear to have made a calculation that this push is going to be helpful to the prime minister, and it looks likely, certainly recent polling shows that the strikes against Hezbollah have been popular within Israel. It may keep him going forward until the Knesset comes back and he's able to more effectively fight for remaining in place. He also needs to get those people back to their homes in the north of Israel. And this is a way he thinks that he can put the pressure on Hezbollah and the rest of Lebanon to move that forward.
It's important to set that context, isn't it, Gina? Because Netanyahu has not been for some time popular amongst Israelis. He's also, as I understand it, facing some potential corruption charges as well. So
that is correct.
It is in his vested political interest to take the attention away from that. Do you really think he is beginning and encouraging this offensive for those personal reasons, rather than the ones he's talking about returning the Israelis to the north of the country and dealing with Hezbollah and the Iranian threat on a wider context?
Well, certainly having 60,000 plus Israelis displaced is not helping his standing. So I certainly believe that he does want to be able to return them. However, we've heard from Israelis themselves, from the defense establishment in Israel, as well as the President of the United States questioning his motivation for continuing the war. We know that the hostages have been a priority for the United States and apparently less so for the Prime Minister. We know that the IDF has killed more hostages than it has rescued, that the hostages that have been rescued, it was done by and through diplomatic means, and the Prime Minister is eschewing those means at this point. He is not accepting the deal that President Biden has put on the table, modified, put a new one on the table, and so too, Hamas has not taken up the deal for a ceasefire. So both sides seem to believe and are acting as if the priority is not a ceasefire, not relief for Palestinians and not relief for Israelis.
Israel has said today there is a very real possibility of an incursion, of a ground offensive. How much of a different proposition would that be, taking on Hezbollah rather than Hamas, for instance? This paramilitary group who have had a lot of battle-hardened experience in Syria, fighting for President Assad, and a lot of urban warfare experience in that region too.
Well, we had a preview of this in 2006 when Hezbollah started a war via kidnapping Israeli soldiers. The casualties on the Lebanese side were horrific. The destruction of infrastructure in Lebanon was substantial, but Israel also suffered over 100 casualties, and the prime minister at the time certainly paid a political price for that. It was absolutely devastating for Lebanon, but it was terrible for Israel as well. This is a ground offensive. If they do carry it out, it is going to be costly for both sides, but certainly more costly for the Lebanese. This may bring additional pressure on Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, and of course the preparation that the Israelis have done with taking out their communication systems, with making them doubt, suspect their colleagues, because there must have been some infiltration in order to do that, as well as killing off senior commanders who were around Nasrallah in leadership, certainly have hobbled Hezbollah. But they have thousands, tens of thousands of rockets that they can send Israel's way. So it's going to be costly on both sides.
Okay, Gina, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. That's Gina Abercrombie-Winstanley there, President of the Middle East Policy Council. We are expecting Sir Keir Starmer to give that speech tomorrow to the General Assembly of the United Nations. And of course, we'll reflect that on the programme tomorrow eve.